Okay, so first of all, what I would say is we obviously looked at verbs and seanocals and nachnacanchas. We've been doing it since day dot, okay? Anyone who's been here since the very beginning. And obviously we were, really focusing in on like, how to use them for the oral. Now you need to use all that information that you've learned for the oral. You can now reuse that in parts of the paper as well. It's so important to remember that like the oral content isn't just for the oral. Okay, there's phrases, nachnacancha, verbs, and all the different tenses that you've learned that you can now use for your written paper. Okay, I suppose the only hard thing that you will need to look back and revise on is the spelling, the sentence structure. Okay, you're going to have to be a little bit more, I suppose, disciplined on that part. Okay, so brifra. Now, so again, I'm changing up a little bit because I want you to become more familiar with different verbs that can come up, okay, in questions on the exam paper, and then also you being able to use these different verbs in different tenses. So you will see here in the brief renua this week, so I've aontaigh, which is to agree. Okay, so we're used to seeing this one like aontiam leis an ráite seo. So we're getting back now to the written paper and really honing in on all these lovely phrases. But think of it in like other tenses as well. So like daontaigh, right? Daontaigh she leis, she agreed with him. Or for example, let's just think of colscara. So near aontaigh she leis, she didn't agree with him, okay, or whatever the case. Now, so we're looking at léirigh and aber. So these two are probably the most common verbs when we're talking about the written paper and written section. Okay, as in like when we're trying to describe something, we want to say like someone said something, or it's said, or it is shown. So that's why I'm showing you them now. BS, okay, stands for brithir sair, okay, not the other BS. So it stands for brithir sair, and basically, so léirigh and deirtir, that's it in. So that's, if you want to make a note of that, that is the brithir sair or sair brithir. You can say it either way. I'm sure loithrock. Okay, I'm actually going to write the two variations into. Okay, so brithir. Sorry now, brithir sair or sair brithir. So brithir sair or sair brithir, because they can come up in either way, right? And they are the brithir sair am sure loithrock. Okay, am sure loithrock. So léirigh, it is shown, deirtir, it is said. Okay. So I just thought they were really two good ones to have. All right. Now, this seanocal, okay, is one that you can use in many different aspects. I was thinking like for an essay, if you got really stuck, that you could use it for an essay, like any type of an essay. So it's kind of and now it's a little bit of a harder one than Nília din an autorum, but so Jalarian sé I goni dienta, gaji goil sé denta. So it always seems impossible until it's done. So again, it's not an overly common one, but it's definitely a phrase that can be used in so many different contexts. Okay, so I thought it was a nice one. And then deirhin go will. So again, I'm trying to think of really nice nachnacanchas. Obviously, we've talked before about it is very impressive to bring in the mocanilok. Okay, so deirhin goil is, I would say that it is. And the reason I'm using deirhin is because I want to say I would say. Okay, I would say that it is. All right. So obviously it's just important to know that. But I'm dying to hear how you have gotten on. So first of all, in your check-in box, I want you to tell me how you got on with the oral. First of all, how it went. I want a full rundown. And then second of all, how did you get on over the Easter? Is there anything you attempted, or how are you feeling now going into term 3? Okay, so first of all, I was actually chatting to some of my 6 years today, and they were saying, that they felt a little bit nervous and they like blanked kind of here and there. But like you need to remember as well that the examiner will take into account, like some of you might do French or German or Spanish as well. I know one of my girls was saying, she was like, I went in and I started speaking French like straight away, and that kind of threw her. But like the examiner will take that into account. And I think sometimes what I've noticed even from doing like mock orals is students always do better than they think they're going to do. And like, even you saying, Alana, she asked you a question in the Mochanílach. Like that is really uncommon for her to do that. But in a way, you need to take it as a compliment that she kind of did that because she wanted to see how you reacted to it and how able you were, and she obviously thought you were quite able, so that's a good sign. And I think, like you're saying, Shannon, you got a shroud that you didn't like. I know that's really frustrating too, because there is ones we like more than others. But you were all so well prepped for it that, it couldn't have gone awful that you would have failed it or got like 0 to 20 marks. You definitely all would have gotten up in the high hundreds. Okay. And what I mean, like high hundreds is like, 160 to 200. I've no doubt about it. And what you need to realize now is it's done. There's nothing you can do about it now. You've done your best. And now it's just time to really focus in on the paper. And I suppose, like, just say to yourself, right, I have 40% in the bag. I just need now to throw as much as I have at this exam paper. Okay. And look, my job, guys, is to try and make it as easy as possible for you to attempt. So like over the next couple of weeks, I'm really focusing in on things now that I am like more or less sure that are going to come up. Now I'm going to go through 3 poems. I'm going to talk about that now, like the 3 poems, the prose. I am very confident that what I give you and what we will do and we'll practice, they're going to come up. Okay. Now, not all 3 poems are going to come up, but I can guarantee you one of the poems will be there. Okay. So it is just, it's important to, it's important for me, for you not to be wasting your time learning X, Y, and Z when there's really no need to. Okay. But I'm glad you're happy. I'm sure you're so glad it's over. And I have you know what, if I was you, I wouldn't have done any Irish over the Easter either. So you were dead right to take the break. Okay, so I'm going to just show you now what we're going to focus on. Okay. Where are we here now? Deesh, is it, Grace? Like, let me just check, where are my papers? I'm pretty sure Deesh came up last year. So now look, in fairness, I don't blame your teacher, because it's like, will they be that obvious and put up like, so for example, so obviously An Gnáród has never come up, and I can't imagine it will come up, okay? Because it's up with Shal in Nepal, which is written by Cathal O'Sharkey, and he has child abuse allegations against him. So that's why they never put up An Gnáród, because they can't put him up on a paper for students, right? That's the whole kind of scandal around it. So that's why it's never been up on the paper, which is ridiculous. Because it's like, why is it even on the curriculum then? But hey ho. So like, what came up? So Oisín and Deesh came up. So it's always the 4 of them, right? So Oisín, Deesh, Oisín Tiernan Og, Deesh, Cá Camillis, and Harlama book. Okay. Now, obviously before this it was grand, because you were like, it was a bit easier, because you're like, okay, instead of the 5 of them, it's the 4 of them. And remember, before COVID, only 1 ever came up. Okay. So you could, obviously you'd try and narrow it down. I would always learn 3. Okay. Always, because I just never left it to chance. But you'd never learn the one that came up the year before, because you're like, it's not going to come up 2 years in a row. And they've never done that in the Irish papers. So obviously the real Leaving Cert kicked back in about in 22, I suppose you could say. Right. So let's see here in the 22 paper. This is the deferred one. It was Cóca and her llama book, right? And then last year they put up Dish, Oisín and Dish. So people are like, are they really going to put up Cóca and her llama book again? Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, oh, are they really going to do that again? And is it just going to be over and back, over and back? But this is my approach to it. I am studying with my students Cóca and her llama book. I don't think both of them are going to be there. I genuinely don't think, I think they're going to do like Cóca and Oisín or her llama book and Dish, right? I think they're going to mix it up. But my approach is if you learn Cóca and her llama book, one of them is going to be there. They can't put up Oisín and Dish again. So if one of them are there and you've learned two, Cóca and her llama book, you're sorted. So I was planning on her llama book, Cóca and Oisín, but focusing on her. Would you recommend that? Yeah. Personally, with my leaving certs at school, I'm doing Cóca and her llama book and I'm not touching the others. I'm not touching Oisín and Dish, like forget about it. We don't have time. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, but like I'd be shocked if they just put up Oisín and Dish again. It's never happened. So I think you'd be absolutely fine. Yeah, like exactly what you're saying there. If you want to have a look at Oisín Grace, definitely do, like work away. But I would be focusing and putting all my focus on her llama book and Cóca, because one of them will definitely be there. And happy days if two of them are there and you can have your pick. So it's all about guys reading the exam paper, you know, and getting to grips with it and knowing what you need to focus on and what you can kind of forget about. So what do we as a class need to focus on now? So we need to focus on Clúis, right? Because it's one that we don't spend enough of time on, okay? So we need to look at those. Essays we need to start getting really in on, okay? So there's 3 essays that I'm going to focus on with you. So obviously we've done Afreware Roja. We have looked at Five and Adrian Shunta. They're on the drive. The translations are there. I want to give a Gaeilge essay. Okay, and I want to do a sale on Dagora, so the life of the teenager. So that will look at like the good and the bad, because sometimes we always focus on the bad, but you know, some years when it comes up, it's like, oh, the good things about being a young person. So I want to have both in the essay. Now, the last one there, 5 and a sit down, is basically a mix of all you've previously learned, okay? So, like, that's what we call, like, the everything essay. So, like, if you know, if all else goes to pot, that at least you have, like, 3 essays in your back pocket that you can take bits out of to make a bigger essay. Yeah, to make a broad, generic essay, okay? So we need to have focus on 6B, which you will see that I am kind of focusing on now in the next 2 weeks. We need to revise poetry. So these are the 3 poems I am doing. I will not be covering the others, okay, in live classes. If you want to look at the other poems, they are on the drive in recorded lessons, okay? Same with the prose, and then obviously revision of Literature Brescia and Gotha. Now, the last one there is very much on yourself, because I do Gotha. Some of you will be doing on Trial, a Higno teacher. The way I'm going to be revising these is I will be giving them as homework tasks, okay, in certain weeks, and I will be correcting them. So like, say if you do on Trial, you do an on Trial question, I'll just pick a year, and then you pick whichever one you do, and then I'll correct it and give you feedback on it, okay? I know that can be stressful for some people. That's why I do Gotha, because it's just an easier one. On Trial is pretty heavy, but sure, look, it has to be done. So when you look at it, guys, when you hone in on it, we don't have too much to do, right? You have a lot of this groundwork done, and you know, it's just about getting good now, and it's trying to us to be now get used to like the repetitiveness. So if 3 or 4 weeks down the line where you're like, this is so repetitive, like I know it, that's a good sign, because it means you know it and you're confident with it. So that means you're going to be confident with it when it comes up in the paper, okay? Now, so if you have your exam papers in front of you, if you don't, it's on the drive, okay, or if you've printed this off, you can use it as well. So we are now going to have a look at the Clues Tishkinch. We're just going to have a look at the script today. Now, why do I want to do this? I want us to look at different keywords and phrases that maybe we have not seen yet, okay? And, you know, as we do listenings throughout this term, I want us to pick up on the trends of words and sentences and phrases that maybe we haven't seen before. So you're going to need just a highlighter and a pen, okay? As you are going along. All right, so let's get into it, because then I want to have a look at the reading comprehension, because I know I'm going to kind of fly through this now. But obviously stop me if there's words maybe I haven't come across or I haven't discussed and you want clarification on it. So, Gaeilge who launched, right? So I'm not going to translate all of it. Okay, I'm just going to translate keywords, and then we're going, like I said, we're going to then do this in class next week. So who, shoal. Now, shoal has a double meaning: to send and to launch, okay? So in this instance, who launched the book club online, okay? So, I'm, what aim, okay? Now, guys, anytime you see egg like that, so egg Moira, egg on Glub Lower, egg, you can see it here in the second one, egg ball on club. That means has or to have. So what aim has the book club? Okay, what opportunity has club members? Okay, so again, it's just to get used to seeing egg as has as well as at. Okay, so I'm, what aim? Jesh, this word gets so many people and it comes up so often. Jesh, what opportunity? Okay, ball. Okay, so ball is a member, a very common word that comes up. Okay, so what opportunity has club members? Okay, on the website's forum. Okay, Lauer Namiasa. So Miasa month. Okay, when they read the book of the month. Okay. Now, again, here they're trying to confuse students. They're trying to panic them a little bit. So, skriv she is go vir olish. Write down two pieces of information, okay? Two bits of information that must be filled in on the application form. Now, so form chlorachon, okay? So on the application form, or on the, well, it's not really application, like registration form. Okay, so two bits of information. Near, you see, would throw people off. Okay, but again, guys, what I would say is, and I know you don't have a lot of time to do it, but it does take, you know, you do get better at it the more you practice, is like, you know, translate the words you know. Okay, so like if you know Lena, Isteach, Ferrum, Erlina, Shrieve Shias, Olas, write down those words in English, okay? And then, like, you might piece together then what the question means, okay? And be able to take a stab at it. Now, Fogra though, so that should all be fine. Number one there, what date? So, can, right? Just is like things, okay? Two things. So same as Rud. So write down two basically things that are going to be talked about. So two topics. Over concha, talking topics, speaking topics, just topics. Write down two of the topics that the lecturers will be speaking about, okay, in the talks. And then one, now rhyme-fee I thought was a good verb to make note of. Mention one thing students will share. So university, Mick So Mick university students, okay? I've explained that to you before. Scolari no dalti, secondary school students. But Mick no Namach is university students. So mention one thing university students will share with the students, okay? Rhyme, the verb rhyme in no, so this is what it looks like in its to share. Ceart galore? Okay, to share. Right, Cora Hain. What words do I want you to take note of? The number one there is fine. So scríb she is go kush imnig. Imnig, guys. I do think everyone knows imnig, but it catches a lot of people. Worry. So 2 reasons of worry associated with plastic pollution. Now, so tráú pláisteach, okay? Plastic pollution today, according to Edie or Ida, depending on how you pronounce the name. Okay, so remember, Coral Ahan is, or sorry, Quid B. So Coral Ahan and Coral Do is the hardest section of the Clús because 2 people are speaking and you need to be like, well, who's who? Especially if it's 2 girls, it's like, well, which one of them is talking now? When it's a boy and it's a girl, it's a little bit easier to obviously identify. So 2 reasons associated with that, a one and lesh. So a one and lesh, ag bonch lesh, sorry, I'm just writing this here for you. Ag bonch lesh, associated with. Okay, associated with, okay, is what it means most of the time. Now, right, number 3, Codadair. What do the experts say will happen by the time 2050? Okay, so again, not an easy one. They're talking about Ahrué Rodza and Timpalocht and Northern Marshin, so it isn't an easy one to, there'll be a lot of new vocab there for this one. And then the second half, so when was Edie at the music festival? So Cahan, please make a note of that if you're not sure what Cahan is. It comes up so much. When? So I'm looking for a date, a time, a year, okay? Last week, this week, next week. So when was Edie at the music festival? So obviously it's going to be past tense. Now, Deshtin is a great word, okay? We use it sometimes in Cockamillish. Disgust, okay? Absolutely disgust. So what disgusted Edie on Monday morning? Okay, what disgusted her? Okay, so the way it's presented in Irish is what disgust was put on her. Okay, so that's why cur is there. And then the last one now. Okay, so there's a few key words here I want to discuss. So the first one is Iran. Okay, this word here, IARRANN, and that's asks. Okay, so write down one thing and then lucht agraha. So lucht is an audience. Okay, lucht on its own. Lucht agraha is organizers. Okay, so for example, Lucht Agraha, the organizing group, the organizers. If it was like an audience for a TV program, it would be called Lucht Fécana, the watchers. If it's for music, Lucht Éisteachta, the listeners, okay, the group of listeners, the group of watchers, okay, that's where it comes from. Now, chunker, cannot express how important that word is, comes up quite a lot as well. Chunker, influence, okay, influence, chunker. And then alaidu, okay, is a great actual phrase to know, and it's to reduce. Alaidu, okay? Right, alaidu. Now, this is a real tongue twister trying to translate it into English, so just bear with me. So write down one thing the organizers ask everyone to do to reduce the influence of the festival on the environment. Okay, so I'm going to say that again if you want to make note of it for when we're doing it next week. So write down one thing the organizers ask the people to do to reduce the influence of the festival on the environment. I remember when I was like translating that for the first time, I was trying to like put it into proper English because it is so wordy. And guys, that's hard when you're in a timed exercise. Yeah. So again, just go easy on yourself. A lot of people find the listening's really hard. And it's totally normal because they are hard and it's a timed exercise. So a lot of the time you don't just get to sit there and think about it, okay, which makes it harder. All right. So, córa dó. Now, trí céile, want you to make a note of that phrase there. Trí céile, upset. So, why was Grania upset when she arrived? Good verb to know. Okay, now this bhíoch here, right? Bhíoch. There's another one here. Taoch. Go leis scéil. So that's the gná chatte. It's a different grammar or it's a different tense. You don't need to worry about it. But what it is used to. Okay, so used to be, used to go. So write down two things that Grania used to have going on in the Spanish classes. Okay, so obviously it's just in the past tense. We don't really use the gná catch anymore. We would use the mochanílach and stuff instead, or just even obviously the amshachatzah. But obviously the gná chatzah is can be used in Irish still today if you want. So fálam is to learn, changa language. Okay, so what Shanukal is true with regards language learning, according to column. Dar le, according to, if you don't know that, dar le. All right. Right, that's all that. Right, so again, write down one place Grania and the other students used to go on a trip after the classes. So where did they go? Okay, now you probably would be able to figure that out by teach, te, when you think of che, te for the IGH, chain, she, chain, she, whatever. Okay, so what did Maria and her mother, so what was shown, what did Maria and her mother show to Grania on the Sunday? Okay, so yeah, what was shown by Maria and her mother to Grania on the Sunday? Okay, that's just the Brí Saor. So again, it's a little bit different. They're doing this to try and throw you off. If you know that caspon, okay, if you know, even though the ending is different, and you know that caspon means to show, that will be enough to get you by. Okay, you will get the preface of the message of the question. Okay, and then cén fónach will Grania ag to new le, another great phrase. Ag to new le, returning to, or sorry, looking forward to. Sorry, I'm looking at filla there after, which is returning. Ag to new le, looking forward to. Tom ag to new lesh. I'm looking forward to it. So why is Grania not looking forward to returning to school? Okay, so cén fónach will she. And then the last one, Pisa Hain, I understand I am running through this, but I just have so much to get through. So cén tanamatá ar an podcréilú. Podcréilú podcast. Okay, so what is the name of the Irish podcast? Okay, now obviously a Georgia, it is important to read the question in full. Don't disagree with that. However, a lot of the time you don't have time to fully engage with all questions. I know that this is asking me, what is the name of the Irish podcast? Okay. Now, you would hope that there will be only one Irish podcast mentioned, okay, in the piece, but there may not be. Okay, they might put in two or three to really confuse you. Now, that's really mean if they do. But again, I'm just thinking a timed exercise. If you know even the start of it, you're like, okay, what am I looking for? Okay, because remember, you have to read all the different sections. It's not just focusing on Quid A. You need to look at every single section before that Quid A starts, so you have an idea in your subconscious of what's going on. Now, write down one topic that will be discussed. So over, topic, subject, okay? And then two pieces of information about the podcréilú on Spot Dove that was in third place. Now, so some students might be clever and they put this up here, okay? Now look, it's better to put something than nothing, but obviously that was in third place. But this one, a gradum. So guys, actually make a note of the word gradum. Gradum is a award, okay? Or then is gold, okay? That won the gold award at the special occasion, okay? Now, and then the last three questions in PISA though, so what year, okay, did Pele play in the World Cup for the first time? Corn on Dow in the World Cup. Den Cade or for the first time, okay? And then Kane for will Anam Pele Lutza. That word is very important. You can make a note of it. Lutza is mentioned, okay? Lutza. So just to make sure to mention that. So what year did he play? Why is his name mentioned in the Guinness Book of Records? Agus scríb síos cinál amháin. That is a very good sentence starter or question starter rather. And it's write down one type, okay? One type of work that Pele did. Jairig sé as. So Jairig me as my first is I gave up my job, okay? Or Dairig me as my first can also mean like I retire from my job, okay? So when he gave up soccer or when he retired from soccer, right? So just so you know, Dairig me as my first, I gave up my job, I retired from my job, okay? It has dual meaning. Now, so we are going to look at this reading comprehension for homework this week. Now, so you are just going to do your normal thing by answering questions 1 to 5, right? But I want us to have a look at now 6A and 6B. This is what I'm really going to focus in on now for the rest of this class today. Because 6A and 6B is probably the biggest section that students neglect or don't answer at all. And you are throwing away 30 marks. You know, the H1, H2 student, even H3 student knows about 6A and 6B and they have a good grasp of it, okay? So it is really important that you do because it gets, honestly, people don't practice it enough, study it enough, etc. Right? So I'm going to break it down for you now today. So 6A is worth 3 marks. Okay, 6B is worth 12 marks. When you put them together, it makes 15 marks. Remember, you have 2 reading comprehensions in this exam. They are worth 50 marks each. So 15 marks for 6A and 6B by 2 is 30. So essentially, you are giving up 30% of a question, so 30 out of 100, okay, if you do not answer these sections. And I've seen it as an examiner. There are people who leave them completely blank, and you are literally setting yourself up, okay, because you're not going to reach your potential. And, you know, even if you attempt these questions, you're going to get marks for them, okay? Now, so first of all, 6A, 3 marks. Nothing to be worried about, okay? If you get 1 out of 2 right, okay? So obviously they're going to look for 2 grammar rules. So you can see here in this 6A, it says, find an example of a noun in the Tishil Ginnajuk Ulra in Alta Do, so in paragraph 2. Then find a sample of the Brihir Sair in the Amshire Loihruk in Alta Cuig. So obviously finding an example of the Brihir Sair is much easier than finding Tishil Ginnajuk Ulra, okay? Fair enough. So if you know the Brihir Sair and you're able to identify it, you will get 2 out of 3 marks for that. You only get an extra mark for the second one that you get right. So as I was saying, I actually was explaining this to my Leaving Certs today, and I was like, there's no point crying over 1 mark. There's also no point studying for hours and hours and hours the Tishil Ginnajuk and trying to perfect it for 1 mark or maximum 2 marks. It's just not worth it. You don't have the time. You've enough to be doing. So again, that's like my crash course in 6A. You can also get asked things like, you know, find just a verb, okay? So you need to be really careful when you read the question because sometimes they just say, oh, find a brihar sanam shakacha, which is a verb in the past tense, which is like your cur, v, rina, glan, vrish, okay? But the candidate didn't read the question properly and they thought they meant brihar sair because brihar sair does come up quite a bit. However, it was wrong, okay, because they were just looking for a verb. They can also look for the mo canilok, okay, it can be a popular one, and then the came in a comparoja, right? So the came in a comparoja is literally like, so you have bresh came and sar came, so like shan, which is old, so nishina, Sorry, I'm writing this out in Zoom chat for you. So ní sinna is what we call sar came. I'm not using fathers now, so forgive me. And ish shinna is sorry, the other way around. Ní sinna is bresh came, and then ish shinna is sar came. Okay, so now, but the full rule is céimena comparódsa. Comparódsa. Okay, there's a little bit of a spelling mistake, but you get it there. And they might say, find a came in a comparóide bresh came, or find a came in a comparóide star came. Okay, or just find a came in a comparóide in any of them. So that's what you're looking for. Now, I just want to quickly talk you through the Tishil Ginejuk Ulra. Now, this is, I mean, crash course, okay, of what I'm about to do. So, the Tishil Ginejuk Ulra, basically, Ulra, you need to know that word, is plural, okay, plural. So you have the Tishil Ginejuk Ulra, which is the Tishil Ginejuk in plural. Now, then that's split up into Log Ulra and Train Ulra, right? So how do I know when, if a word is in the plural, if it's Log Ulra or if it's Train Ulra? So if it's Log Ulra, when you change it, so for example, on Colleen, right, is uha. Sorry now, on Colleen is uha. And then na Colleeni. Sorry, it keeps translating it for me, is ulra. Right, so na Colleeni. So when you put it into its plural form, okay, so the boy, boys, and it ends in a consequel or an a, it changes to log ulra. So you can see here, na, so love, na lova. Okay, so I've added a to the end. So now when I'm putting it into the Tishil Ginejuk, which we kind of looked at before the break and that, right now, a while ago, like, you know, when two nouns come together, a doing verb. So washing the hands, that's why it goes back to, so it goes back to its original state, right? So egni na love. Okay, that's why it's not egni na lova, washing the hands. Okay, it's egni na love because it's in the Tishil Ginejuk, right? Now, difference here now, right? So na Frankig, right? So you can see here, so that's the French as plural, okay? So the French people, right? Now, na Frankig, you can see it ends in IGH. That's what we call a consequel, okay? It is ending with a slender vowel, but that does not mean the vowel is at the end of the word. It means that it's the last vowel in the word. So that's why it's called a consequel, because there will always be consonants at the end, okay? Now, this one is slightly different, okay? So we're gone back to its original state again, right? Like Frankok, but you're just putting in an uru as well. So Canary na Vrankok, okay? Again, similar to egni na love, but we put an uru on because it can take an uru. L can't take an uru, as we all know, but F can, so we're going to put it in there, okay? Now, if it's obviously, so if it's not ending in a or ending in a consequel in plural form, then it means it's train ulra. And with train ulra, you just keep it the same, right? So discussing the acts, so achtana. So the singular version is acht, but because it's achtana, so it's A-N-N-A at the end as opposed to a, okay, it just stays as it is, but we put in an N fleshking, okay? So egg play na nachtana, okay? Now, so again, guys, the fact I'm even discussing this is amazing because I have gone years not having actually time to discuss these kind of grammar rules with my students. And then it just turned in, you know, I'm like, oh, just look for this and look for that and hope for the best. But it is great that I get a chance to just explain myself and make it clearer for you. So when you are asked to look for the Tishil Ginejuk Ulra, look for na followed by an uru or na followed by an n dash. Okay, so that's, I think, a really important tip, because you can go away and learn all these rules, but again, do you have the time? Is it only going to make you more confused, etc., etc.? So what I do say is break it down is when it's ulra, tishil genajuk ulra, you are looking for na, okay, followed by an uru, or na followed by n dash. Okay, you'll see the n dash when the verb, or not the verb, when the noun is begins with a vowel. So we've seen there na nachtana kerkalor. So now let's have a look. Right, so I wanted to show you this. Okay, now guys, what I will say is I'm obviously not going to get a chance to like go through it all today, but this handout, right, is, without me sounding completely up my own, blow my own trumpet, but this handout really does break 6B down, okay? I broke it down because I was like, right, I want something that I can use with my students that really makes it simple and that they can understand, but then they also can understand when I'm not there, that I can just break it down for them, okay? So I want you to really have a look at this week, okay? If you're doing your homework task, which is the reading comprehension, to use it to get to grips, and I know I spoke about it briefly before, but to get to grips with the structures, okay? So if I said to you, okay, you have to write 60 words on your own, which is what the question is essentially asking you, okay? So just go back here to the thing really quickly. So, oh no, actually, I'll show it to you here. So like, I'll show it to you in a question. So like down here when it says, based on the extract above, what 2 traits do you give this person? And, write in your own words, and it has to be 60 words, etc. Like, that's daunting for a normal student. They're like, sure, how am I going to write 60 words? Like, I don't even know what to write. This booklet just gives you structure. So it's like, okay, if this comes up, this is the structure I'm going to use. If this comes up, this is the structure I'm going to use. Okay. And I hope that makes sense. And if you are reading through the booklet and something isn't sitting right with you, or like, you're just not fully you're not fully understanding what I'm saying or what I'm trying to explain within the booklet, send me a message and I'm happy to help. Okay. And send a wee voice note to describe myself, okay, a bit better. But I'm telling you, that booklet is, and again, it's then just about learning the different patterns, okay, and the different structures for each question. And some of them can be intertwined. It can be used for 2 or 3 questions, okay, but it's about getting to grips with it and practicing it. Now, so obviously, guys, a lot of marks from my teaching or my correction experiences, a lot of marks, as you well know, will be lost for grammar, okay? So this is what we need to get to grips with, are masculine and feminine nouns, okay? So I know I am throwing so much at you, but you will be able to go back and practice this and look at the notes and look at this recording, okay? So Antalt, this word here, basically is the in English, right? So we call it the article, but it basically means the, okay, or on, right? So anytime you see Antalt, if you're reading notes in your, textbook or whatever, is essentially on, and then on obviously means the, right, in English. So for example, filiocht, which is poetry, is just filiocht when it's on its own, poetry. Ismachlum filiocht. I like poetry. However, when it's the poetry, rather, okay, it changes to on iliocht. On iliocht. Okay, you couldn't say to me, Danielle, why? That doesn't make any sense. It actually does make sense, okay? It's because filiocht is feminine. And when it's feminine and it begins with a consonant, you put a H in it. Okay. So now I want you to quickly draw out kind of a grid like this. Okay. And again, you'll be able to come back and you'll be able to look at this yourself. So, and when you get to grips with this, it is actually so easy. And I'd say people hate when I say that, but it really is, guys, because let me tell you, I did not know this at all when I was in Leaving Cert. To give you any comfort, I hadn't a clue, right? I was just learning stuff off and hoping for the best. However, I feel if I had a better understanding of this, there would have been simple mistakes that I could have corrected, okay? Had I, been when I was looking back over my work, all right? So that's kind of the opportunity I want to give you guys. So if the noun starts with a consonant and the noun is masculine, it doesn't change, right? On board, the table, on Gohan, the phone, on Colleen, the girl is actually masculine, on Boohil, on car, on Chuck, on Darius, okay? All masculine, nothing changes to them, okay? However, if the noun begins with a consonant and it's feminine, it gets a H. On Villog, on Inyog, on Iliocht, on Gaeltocht, okay, on Gaelga. These are all feminine words, okay? So when you're looking at like your notes, your reading comprehensions, you'll be able to spot these now. They'll come out a little bit more and it'll all make sense. Now, nouns that start with with vowels, sorry. So this is where a lot of my students get confused at school. So if it's masculine, okay, and it is begins with a noun, it gets a T fleshkin. A lot of people think that that's for feminine. So I always use the one in my classroom. I always think of on Toglev. Oglev is masculine. I know Oglev is masculine. I know it inside out, right? So pick one word from each one that you know is either masculine or feminine and how it's written when on is in front of it. On Toglev. So I know any words that begin with a noun and they're masculine, they all get a T fleshkin. On Theratus, on Theratus, the application. On Tifakuk, the officer, sorry. Okay. However, so this is where people can get confused. If it begins with a vowel and it's feminine, no change. On Ashta, the essay, no change. On Osh, the facility, no change. On Ifig, the office, no change, right? Now, when it begins with D and T, nothing changes whether it's masculine or feminine, okay? Because of the dentals, okay? Because if you think about it, on ends in an N, and then D and T, they're all part of the dentals. So again, just to write the dentals out again. So if you have dentals beside each other, they can't take a shevu or an arrow. Okay. So Antalya, okay, is masculine. On Duris, but on Donlin and on Tina is feminine. And then the last one, which people struggle with. If a noun starts with an S and it's masculine, nothing changes. But if it begins with an S and it's feminine, you put a T in front of it. I use, in my head, to remember it, I use on Throds, the street. I know that Shroj is feminine and it's spelled on Throj. So that tells me that every S word that is feminine, it takes a T fleshkin. Now, there is one exception to this rule, okay? So you cannot, actually, I'll put it here. Right, cannot put a TS when it follows. So Sister Eleanor's small Spanish school, okay? So SR, SM, SP, and SC, okay? Can't take TS. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So for example, like on Spanish, I'm just going to write that there. That doesn't look right. On to Spanish, no. Okay. Or sorry, not SR. What am I doing? So just SM, SP, SC. Okay. So like on like skull, let's just say. A skull is actually feminine. So on to skull. It just doesn't look right. And there will be a lot of them, guys, that you will, I'll just take that out in case it confuses you. Small Spanish school. Let's just leave it at that. There'll be a lot of them you'll be like, that just doesn't look right. And go with your gut when it doesn't look right, okay? Because a lot of the time you will be right, okay? Now, again, I'm just going to run through this. I know I'm kind of running out of time. And I have it all here in Irish, so you can go back and look at it, okay? And obviously translate. So, what are things are masculine? Now, first of all, if you want to break it down, now this doesn't cover everything because there's so many exceptions in Irish, but this is what I do say to people. Think of the fat man and the skinny woman, okay? Fat man, broad, okay? So, fat man basically means broad, masculine, okay? Skinny woman is slender, feminine. So a lot of the time, now when I mean a lot of the time, I'm talking about like 88% of the time. If it has a consonant Latin is what we call it, right? So that's like chalk, there's board. They are all consonant Latin. They have broad vowels, okay, at the end of them, and then obviously the end in a consonant. Then you have consonant whale, which is like skull. Let me see. Skull, Irish, ifig. Okay, they are all skinny, they're slender, okay? They end in a consonant, but their last vowel is a slender vowel, okay? So I always say, think of fat man, skinny woman to think of which side takes masculine, which side takes feminine most of the time. But what other things are masculine? So names and masculine things. And then I give a load of examples. Second one is probably the most important is jobs. Majority of jobs are all masculine, okay? Then you have a little bit more specific. So then you have nouns that end in A for the N or I for the N, okay? And the reason I have asterisks here beside Colleen is because obviously Colleen means the girl, very feminine, stands for something feminine. However, it is masculine, okay? So you can see there, right? I give loads of examples. And then nouns that are broad, usually, okay? So chalk, you've a load of them there. Now, feminine, a little bit more rules, okay? Now look, and there's loads more rules for masculine as well, but these are kind of like the basics to get you through Leaving Cert Irish, right? I mean, I'd be half the day here going through all the rules. So things that are feminine, names and feminine things, but obviously there's exceptions like Colleen. Languages and countries are feminine. However, the only rules that it breaks for, which are masculine, is Béarla, America, Sasana, and Canada. America, England, and Canada are all masculine and English. So you can think of obviously the divide between, Ireland and England, and that's why that is. Okay, now these again are a little bit more specific. So 2-syllable, stop wrong arm, guys. My throat is so dry. 2-syllable nouns, okay, that end in either I for the OCHT or OCHT, okay, or ACHT or EACHT. So I've given you examples there, right? So they are normally feminine. Then you need to think of either O for the G or EOG and LANN, okay? Fwinog is probably, on inyog, on villog, on crinog, okay? These are, they all sound the same, okay? So that's what makes, there's, when you look at certain words, like let's just take jobs in masculine, for example. Múntóir, ceoltóir, inaltóir, mechnóir, there's so many jobs, fermior, doctor, they all sound the same. So if they sound the same, they look the same, they're probably within the same gender. Okay. And then, like I said here, nouns that are usually quail. Okay. So Vánish, Ubber, Óchod, Kishtin, Leafroads. Okay. So I have thrown a lot at you there, right? And you can see here I've clocked that. I'm not even going to get to that this evening. Okay. However, I have this included in your I have it included in your homework, right? Now, again, guys, I understand that there's a lot, you still have a lot on, there's projects to be finished, etc., etc. Homework is always optional, but if you do it, I'm obviously going to correct it. Okay. So, if you get the time to do it, definitely do it. But as I always say, if it's, like, try and get it in within the 4 days, just because I don't have a lot of time now. Over the next 2 weeks, I don't have a lot of time, but then after that, once my college course is finished and my exams are over, which they will be next week, I'll have a lot more free time. So you'll probably see I'll be pestering you a lot more because I have a lot more free time in my hands. But for your homework, oh God, okay, I realize the time now. I'm going to let you go. Just sit with this, have a look at it. Try and attempt the homework. We will come back to it now next week as well. And I want you to do the reading comprehension from this class today as well, the whole lot of it. But especially now focusing in and using your notes to answer 6A and 6B. Okay. And then next week we're going to do the listening, and then we're going to obviously practice a bit of 6B and a bit of this again. Then obviously, look, we will be incorporating then in more prose and filiocht. Oh, now, public announcement before I forget. There's no class, that I knew that was the reason I was giving you so much homework. There is no class next Monday for the sole reason that I have a big exam on the Tuesday, and I literally just need to study because I've done no study because I've been away and I'm a very bad student. So there is no class. That's why the term is 7 weeks and not 8 weeks. So, like, if you've been talking to your parents, that's why I only you only have 7 weeks of tuition as opposed to 8, because I'm not here next Monday. Okay, so you have time to get to grips with that. However, if you struggle at any stage, contact me. Okay, send me a message. I'm well able to answer a message. Okay, when I look at my phone and I'll see the message, I will reply to you. Okay, you have this recording, come back, look at it, make your notes, carve out a bit of time for Gaeilge this week, getting to grips with this, trying to get the homework done, because it's study at the end of the day. You need to stop looking at it as homework. These are study exercises for you, and then they're going to be corrected, and you're going to be given feedback and shown where you're going wrong. So it's well worth doing. Cordia, I know I have thrown so much information at you there this evening, and it's not, I'm probably starting very heavy,